Uh, Hi ladies and gentlemen, be welcome to this video presentation. Let me introduce myself. This is Carlos Alberto Castro Causil, a student at the Open and Distant National University UNAD, based on Sagún, Córdoba. Let me extend a special greeting to our tutor Henry Carvajal, and I'm running this video up to accomplish the requirement of the final activity guide for the course Intermediate English. The activity consists on the lecture, revising unit 1, 2, and 3, and making a lecture of, we have to select from a given list of tales. We have to select one of them and do a reading, a lecture of them. And then we have to answer some questions. Right now, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Please be welcome to this presentation, and thank you for watching and listening. Okay, this is the first question. Does the story have a theme? What is the story about? What is the central idea? Is it implicit or explicit? Okay, I'm going to answer with my own words. This is what I write after the reading. Sorry. Okay, I just want to zoom this a little bit. Okay, let me see if this works as it is supposed to work. Okay, somehow this is not working. Okay, my answer was yes, of course. The story has a theme. The theme is suspense and mystery. The story is about Mr. Dunning. He's a male secretary at the Museum Society where he works. Then appeared this Sir Mr. Karswell, someone who wants the museum to keep his magician book in the shelf of the museum. Somehow most tries of Mr. Karswell had been rejected because his book was considered nonsense. It happened to him twice. In revenge, he supposedly used his magic to murder his enemies. Okay, the first victim was John Harrington. He deserved works for a newspaper, and he was the first man who rejected the book, the magician book of Mr. Karswell. Entonces, John Harrington was left a mystery note with an anticipated announcement of his death. Many time before his death occurred, and his second victims, the victim of Mr. Carwell was this guy, Sir Dunning. But Henry Harrigan, brother of the first murder, John, helped him to figure out the mystery and help him to overcome this raw situation. The central idea, this is the answer to the second question. uh, that the question carries. The central idea is the mystery behind the message of death to Mr. Dunning everywhere he goes, and in second place, the mystery of the antagonic character, this Sir Mr. Carswell. Is it implicit or explicit? I said, I'm strongly sure the main idea is implicit. The language the author handled keep the reader on continuous suspense along the story. Who's the protagonist of this story? Try to establish his or her age, family background, social class, and status and occupation. Okay, the protagonist of this story is undoubtedly Mr. Dunning. To spot this character, let's just imagine that is an adult person, let's say 30 years old, because he's concerned about the message. He stays aware of what to do to save his life. Is a hard-working person, independent, clever, feels scared of the situation. He also enjoys a social status because his public relations at the museum. He received an important salary. On the picture that shows the night he didn't feel well. Okay, this is the picture. He doesn't look like a handsome man. Okay, let's move to the next slide. What is the problem presented in the story? How was the problem solved at the end? Okay, the problem presented in the story turns around how to handle the message of death back to Mr. Carswell, so that the death chain attached to Mr. Dunning get broken. It was all solved thanks to an idea which came from Henry Harrington. Let's remember that Henry Harrington is the brother of John Harrington, that was the first victim of this Sir Carswell. He was the first victim. How they figure out, or how they solve this mess? They spy Mr. Carswell's house almost 3 months. Once they got informed about his moving, they built a strategy, a plan to avoid him at the train without being noticed before him taking the boat. Mr. Dunning got dressed with a false beard, and they figured out how to create a distraction so that Mr. Carswell doesn't notice when the message was given back to him in his wallet. Question number 4. At what point in this story is the tension highest? Is that the dramatic climax? The highest tension was when the narrator, Mr. Dunning, got all over hot and frightened. He was almost to let them being totally discovered by Mr. Carswell, and the entire plan was going to be a failure. The second question is that the dramatic climax. In my opinion, that was the dramatic climax of this story. Yeah, they both were almost about to be discovered by Mr. Carswell. So that's the climax of the story. I mean, me as a reader, I could feel uh, frightened about being discovered, and the entire plan was going to be, a failure, a catastrophe. Let's now move to the next slide. This is the last one. That's the story. Sorry. That the story involved an epiphany or moment of insight revelation or self-realization for the protagonist or for the reader. How is this moment presented? I think it's hard for the average reader to spot a revelation moment in a story like this. In a story like this, reflecting around, I think nobody knows when one can be involved in a situation like this, but if I ever fell into one like this, just become brief and try to analyze, figure out what's real and what doesn't. Sometimes we are victims of our own belief. It's just negative fears that comes from generation to generation, and they are culturally transmitted. It's hard to spot them. In the story might be the moment when they realize the chance to break the malison by giving the message back to Mr. Carswell, like a boomerang effect. All comes and all goes back to the returning point, but magnified. Well, this is all. Thank you for watching and for listening. Goodbye. Thank you.